The Prince of Wales has made a rare intervention into the crisis in the Middle East, saying too many have been killed. In a statement, Prince William said, "I, like so many others, want to see an end to the fighting as soon as possible. There is a desperate need for increased humanitarian support to Gaza. It's critical that aid gets in and the hostages are released." Joining me in the studio to discuss this, TalkTV's royal editor Sarah Hewson. Thanks, Sarah. And TalkTV's political correspondent Alyssa Fitzgerald. Good to have you both here. Let's start with you, Sarah. This is unusual for a member of the royal family to speak out so, I would say, emphatically and dramatically in so delicate an international situation.
Yes, and Prince William really is treading a diplomatic tightrope with this statement. It is very rare. It is the strongest intervention we've had from a member of the royal family in this conflict. Very strongly worded, impassioned statement for him, saying too many have been killed, calling for an end to the fighting as soon as possible, for the release of the hostages, for example. It is a recognition of the human cost of this conflict on both sides, and it is very carefully worded. He is, addressing both sides of the divide in this. It's a difficult one because it is so diplomatically sensitive, and so members of the royal family tend to steer away from that. They need to remain politically neutral. But increasingly, I think we're seeing William taking on this global statesman role. And we're told that this is something that he has been following very, very closely. And ever since his visit to the region, to Israel and the West Bank back in 2018, that had a profound impact on him. And I think that's why we're seeing this statement. And indeed, the engagements that he's going to be carrying out. So we're just seeing some images of him. He was meeting members of the Red Cross today, hearing about the work that they are doing, particularly in Gaza. And then next week, he's going to be visiting a synagogue and he'll be addressing the rise in anti-Semitism.
I mean, it's a very delicate path to tread. And you might say that if you tread it with extreme delicacy, as indeed he has, it cancels and neuters anything you say. So he says he would like to see an end to the fighting, he means in Gaza, as quickly as possible. But he also says that he'd like to see the hostages released as quickly as possible. And we know that were Hamas to release the hostages, the fighting would cease immediately. Israel would retreat. That would be the end of the conflict. So William is acknowledging this. There have been various reports implying that what he said was, "I want a ceasefire. I want Israel to cease fire on Gaza." That isn't what he said at all, is it?
No, and this statement will have gone through multiple layers of checks and scrutiny, written by the Prince of Wales and his office at Kensington Palace, but it will certainly have gone through government channels as well, through the Foreign Office. Number 10 also briefed on this. He also saw his father over the weekend, and it is without doubt that he will have discussed this with his father, the King, as well, before issuing such a significant statement. And of course, his words carry such weight now because he is heir to the throne, but also because with his father not in public at the moment, he is the most senior member of the royal family representing them, and his words are hugely significant. And this has been picked up in the region as well, in Israel, certainly reporting his statement there in newspapers there.
And is there precedent for this kind of statement by members of the royal family? For example, his grandmother, the Queen. Would she have steered clear of something like this? Would she somehow have found a different way of making her views known? Or maybe, because she was a deeply religious person, very well versed in the area and of all the different complications and permutations, which of course started in biblical times, as we all know, she might have felt that it was appropriate to make a speech pretty much identical to his, really calling for peace in the area.
Well, if you think about Ukraine, we've certainly heard statements from members of the royal family talking about standing with Ukraine. The Queen had her own way of doing things. I remember right at the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Queen being photographed with blue and yellow flowers in the background, which was seen as her sort of silent message of support for Ukraine. But in terms of what Prince William is doing here, I think it's very much in line with his father's work as well, talking about interfaith dialogue and tackling religious intolerance, certainly something that we've seen the King and previously as he was the Prince of Wales taking a very keen interest in. So I don't think he's stepping too far out of the line, but he is certainly putting his head above the parapet.